Okay.
Alrighty.
So, Noel,
Yes.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Do you have a name for the show?
You know,
Yeah. Ignite.
Ignite us.
Yeah.
I
So,
read your letter in
yeah.
the.
Yeah, we figured it would be a good time to kind of launch it. I was supposed to go a week beforehand, but I missed Katie's deadline, so yeah. The first paragraph of mine I did have Chat GPT, Mama's little helper. Just I try. I really do, but I'm pumping out like 24 to 48, pieces of media like a week to 2 weeks. So I wish I could be a purist, but
Sometimes it is better, unfortunately, as much as I hate to admit it. Gmail, for example, will give you, here's a suggestion for how we would rephrase it. And I have to say, no, I'm going to phrase it myself badly. I'm not going to take your advice on this, even though it probably is better.
I'm doing it for the plot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I got to maintain my authenticity.
Welcome to the Ignite Us OLL podcast, where faith comes alive, stories inspire, and the Holy Spirit sets hearts ablaze. We're coming to you from Our Lady of the Lake Catholic Church in Mound, Minnesota, where everything we do is driven by our mission to light the fire of God, one heart at a time. Whether you're at home, on the road, or in between moments of quiet and chaos, we're so glad you're here. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and set aflame with truth and love. This is Ignite Us, and the fire is just getting started, one heart at a time.
Oh,
What a way to start.
yeah. All right. And now that we know our feelings on AI, so we can get this show on the road here. All right, welcome back to Ignite Us. I am Aurora, and my fellow co-host. I host. I hope you're going to be the long-term co-host on this.
Long-term co-host, I
Okay,
guess.
Sarah.
I'm Sara.
And welcome to the show, Noel. Please tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I'm Noel Motzing. I've been a parishioner at OLL since for 5 years, 2021. So we'll probably get into it more later, but I moved out to Mound in 2018, I want to say, 2019, and was attending OLL as a non-Catholic, and shortly thereafter, I went through RCIA and joined the parish.
Was it our beautiful, holy ambiance that is this parish that prompted you to join OCIA, or was it
Probably strictly geographical.
Okay, geographical. Okay.
6-minute drive, right?
Yeah. Also, same for me. This was the closest parish when I was in RCIA, now OCIA. So yeah. So okay. You started coming here as a quote non-Catholic. Were you anything before that?
Typical Protestant. So I grew up, both my parents Christian. There was never any doubt about whether or not I was a Christian, I would say. My mom was raised Catholic and my dad was Protestant from Western Pennsylvania. So we always went to I guess in the early 2000s, it was sort of like what they would call like a seeker church. So they had a band and it was, there was quite a bit of like stage presence, I would say. It was very popular at the time, kind of like what I think Westbrook across the street that they do.
Yeah.
We don't say their name here. We don't give them brand presence here.
Okay.
So, I had no doubt about my faith in Christ. However, I never truly thought that a Protestant style denomination really fit me. We would go to Catholic Mass for high holidays, and that much more closely resonated with me, I would say. So, I mean, as I was explaining to one of my friends a few weeks ago, there's basically Protestant and Catholic. So what were you before? I was something else. I was not Catholic, using the rule to define the exception. So I was just not Catholic. But I always thought that it matched me better, I would say. And so then kind of eventually, once you move out and get into your adulthood, I always knew it was something that inevitably I was going to do.
Yeah. So was this something that like you knew kind of as like a teenager that you wanted, or was this something that you kind of discovered in your young adulthood as you kind of grew out of the house?
I probably would say that, yeah, pretty early in teenage era, I suppose. When I first graduated from high school, I went to St. Scholastica in Duluth for 2 years. And part of that was because it was a Catholic college, even though I wasn't Catholic. We would go to Saturday Mass, even though I wasn't a Catholic. And then throughout, quite a few years after that and different permutations of life, I wasn't a regular Mass attender, I would say. I was a regular Mass attender, maybe not just a weekly attender at different phases. So.
Yeah, so you were intermittently, getting exposed to, the Catholic Mass. And did you have any friends who were Catholic?
No.
No? No. Okay.
So loner.
Okay. Love that. Lone wolf rolling in here. Yeah, so was there anything maybe at like St. Scholastica that also kind of supported you in your decision?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't a great experience, I would say. Duluth is very cold.
Yeah.
It's a tough city to live in. You have like zero money, I would say.
Yeah, my brother did all 4 years of his undergrad at UMD, so I know the struggle.
And it's something that you can do if you're like singularly focused on your academics, and I wasn't. I've always been kind of like a hobby person, and so I've always liked to have some sort of distraction to kind of whatever my day job is. And so unfortunately we went skiing too much and wasn't all that interested in what I was doing. I think the Catholic thing, or it being a Catholic college, didn't really factor in. I think it was just that, in my adulthood, I realized that it was something that was incredibly important for me to have, like to not have it, that, Mass attendance, felt very, you felt like something was missing, certainly. So I wouldn't say that it contributed one way or the other, but I think it was just probably one more step in, like the inevitability of it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're kind of going through your story and, just hearing about, just kind of where you're from and then your college experience. So then, in your young adulthood, when, after, this university experience, did you kind of make it out here to, kind of where you're at here?
Sure. So after I went to St. Scholastica for 2 years, I guess I kind of dropped out. I moved to Minneapolis, and then I just hung out for like a year and just worked and had friends here that were going to the U or whatnot. And then a year and a half later or something, I eventually went to college in Milwaukee at an art school down there. And so that's where I finally got my degree. So I have a degree in industrial design. And the company that I work for, their headquarters is in Milwaukee. So I got an internship out of college working for them. I had an internship for like almost 2 years. I just didn't leave. Would you guys are graduates as well.
Yeah.
So when you get an art degree, there are no guarantees that you're going to get an art job. And so basically, I was just thrilled that they were paying me, and I didn't leave. And so we have an office here in Plymouth. And after about 2 years of being an intern, somebody in the organization said, we have an office up in Minnesota. Would you like to move up there and work out of there doing UX design, which I didn't really love, but again, health insurance,
Health
Yes.
insurance is
I thought that would be kind of cool. Just a little bit more predictability of it, of course. So then I moved up here. I lived in like Northeast for like 2 years. And then I was very like, I was very focused on like buying a house. And so I was looking in Northeast for a long, long time, and everything was very expensive. And eventually one day I just sort of zoomed out on Zillow, and then I found a place on Phelps Island, which was an absolute dump. And no, it was.
No.
It should have been torn down.
Honestly, it was probably one of my friend's houses from high school, so
Yeah.
I've probably been inside that house.
Yes, there's plenty of them out there. And I mean, I was aware of Lake Minnetonka, and I'm kind of an outdoorsy person. I've lived in cities for a very long time. You can only go out to eat so many times before you're like, I want a little bit more. So anyway, just to kind of close the loop on this one, bought a house out here, and I think that really ended up being the impetus for like finally going through the RCIA thing. It's like you have so many years of college and crappy jobs and then college again. Like there's a total like transience, I would say. And like, I only had like 3 dishes, right? Until not that long ago, because you'd be moving a bunch.
Right.
And it's like, I don't want to pack all of these dishes every time I have to move for one reason or another. So I think that like definitely buying a house, like putting down like some sort of roots in Mound was like, okay, I can probably reasonably predict that I'll be a member at this parish, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So
So, just making those connections and roots, because it sounds like it's very much a season of just, committing to, the space and the place and the people, which I think is really admirable to, come into a new space, because both me and Sarah, we have the experience of, it's like, this is kind of where we grew up. It's like
Yeah.
we kind of don't have,
we grew up here, yeah.
we don't exactly have a choice at the moment.
Simultaneously, I think I really think it's admirable to feel that like long period of transience, as you say, and then like to finally put down roots, because I kind of relate to that a lot. I've done a significant amount of traveling my entire adulthood, honestly, and so I'm very familiar with that concept of kind of being all over the place all the time, and to feel like you have found a place that you want to put down roots is a really kind of special thing to find, especially when you have been moving all over and you do feel that transience. I think it also is a statement to like where you are now and how you feel about the place that you're living, that you're okay doing that.
yeah, and I don't really have, I mean, I grew up in Western Wisconsin. My whole family is in Western Wisconsin for the most part. And so like, do I have any like real connections to Mound, Minnesota? Like, not really, but I like it here. I really do. Sometimes I think to myself, well, what if they wanted to move me back to Milwaukee? I'm like, where would I live if I moved back to Milwaukee? And like
West Dallas.
not West Dallas. And like, there's nowhere. I mean, as a coastal town, being on Lake Superior or Lake Michigan, there aren't like lakes like Lake Minnetonka. Like this is like very special being out here, and I really do feel incredibly blessed that like for whatever reason I did end up here, and I really like it. I like it.
Yeah. So, your experience with OCIA, because I think it was called OCIA when you started, I believe, or was it RCIA still
I think
then?
my binder that I have still says RCI.
Okay, but things that move
Sure.
who knows? Maybe someone just didn't, put the new sheet of paper in the
Yeah, there was a fax number on it, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But here nor there. I guess kind of, speaking to the folks who maybe are considering, signing up for OCIA, what would you maybe want to tell them about your experience that maybe would either make them feel a little bit more comfortable, or maybe just answer, just some cursory questions, if they're, either like looking at a website, or they're just kind of questioning, they've seen a couple YouTube videos and they think that this might be something for them.
So somebody who is considering
Yeah.
entering
Yeah.
Catholic faith. So like, kind of like as we started out discussing, like I was sort of, I don't know, I was casually attending Catholic Mass. And I would say that coming from a Protestant tradition where there's really no rules or standards for admittance, I think I sort of had treated being a Catholic in a lot of those same ways, sort of not fully appreciating the significance of the sacraments, taking the Eucharist and, confirmation and, whatever whatever cradle Catholics go through. And so I think that it really was until, and I'll answer your question with a little bit of a anecdote. It really wasn't until one day. So like I was attending Mass, and Carla Labor was our RCIA, leader. It was just me actually, because it was like 2020. And so she encouraged me to continue coming to Mass and just not participate in the Eucharist. And I think that for however many weeks that went on, that kind of that desire to fully participate was like building and building and building in me. Whereas like, you sort of casually attend, and it's just kind of procedural, I would say. You listen to the homily, and the readings, and internalize things and pray things that pretty much any Protestant would do if they were at Mass. But it was that the desire to fully participate was building, and it was kind of late in it. I mean, it was like this time of the year, and there was an elderly lady who I'd see at Mass. Oh, Carla, she encouraged me to come. I think that maybe said that. And there was an elderly lady, and she was kind of, towards, the front. And at a certain point, maybe it was during the homily, or, before the preparation, she kind of like fainted and was kind of having like a little bit of like a medical emergency. And, people were attending to her. I'm sure that our parish is full of medical people, doctors, nurses, people who are qualified to deal with something like that. And it just, it hit me so strongly, because I believe it was Father Peter at the time. It was, not Father Tony. And Father Peter, he just kept preparing the Mass. And he could see, I'm sure, that this woman was having a medical emergency. I'm sure he could see that she was being attended to. And at some point, like, the paramedics even came, and I think they took her away in an ambulance. And that imagery to me was so powerful, because as serious as it was for this woman, whatever was happening to her, it was more important for Father Peter to finish preparing the Mass for the people that were attending that Sunday. Because it wasn't just, all right, well, we're canceling, see you next week. It was like, we're all here because of this, because we're called to do this. And it was at that time more important. And I was just thinking, like, the paramedics walking in, like, what were they thinking, where all these parishioners are kind of going about their business, as it were, while somebody is in trouble. And I think so that was a moment before becoming a Catholic. So I guess to your question about what would I say to somebody who is considering it, I would say that the experience is so much deeper and more real and grounded in 2,000 years of history that you don't really appreciate until you go through the process. It has to be a little difficult, an hour or two every week. You do have to have a little bit of, I don't know, inconvenience, I would say. It's hardly discomfort. But you do have to have that little bit of an inconvenience, and because it's worth it, and you kind of have to earn it. You kind of have to earn being a Catholic, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
I like those standards.
Yeah, it's not like it's just something given to you. Like because I come from a Protestant background as well. And it's like, I do appreciate the qualities of, being an open community and people being able to welcome them in with hospitality. But there is a point of having been Christians for 2,000 years, we've learned a thing or two, and we know that it's like, you have to mean it.
Right.
It's like if we will continue to walk with you, we will continue to disciple you, but it takes a decision on someone's part to say that it's like, this is what I want, this is what I'm committing to. And upon my confirmation, I kind of looked at it like I had the same kind of feeling when I walked up and kind of had my moment up there, with the oils and everything like that. I kind of felt it's like, is this what like people getting married feel like? Because it's like I've never been married, and it's like it's something sacramental that you're experiencing. It's the spiritual world being revealed to us through these physical signs and symbols that are happening real time, that are showing us what is happening in the spiritual world. It's like you are being made ready for the gifts of the Holy Spirit so that you can go out and live your adult Catholic life to the fullest strength, so that you can be a functioning cell in the body of Christ.
I think it's really interesting because I am a quote unquote cradle Catholic. And so I think it's really interesting, especially with people who have been born into it, to see this like perspective of, having, not that I didn't make a choice, but it was more innate and kind of like, well, yeah, like this feels right. And this is the next step.
It was gentle.
It was more gentle and more like, just, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. And this makes sense to me. And I think it's important for people who do grow up in it to hear this perspective of like, I think there's more of gentle is a great word for it, where when you're born into it, it's just, it's harder to maybe fully grasp the beauty of the whole thing when it's been in your life the whole time. And so I think it is important for other people to hear perspectives of, of people who weren't born into it. And because it does give you a different appreciation for all the different aspects of it.
Yeah. And I mean, every day we're called to conversion. Every day we're called to wake up, and in those quiet moments of mourning, we're supposed to offer the day to Christ and just say, I am here, Lord. And I think a beautiful visual of this, if you've ever watched The Chosen, is you've got Peter sleeping in a barn, hay all over him, and he wakes up and he just is there. You know how groggy guys are. It's like you've probably seen them in like frat houses. It's like, he just gets up after this crazy night and he just hands out. He's just like, Lord, here I am. And that's it. So I think that's just a beautiful visual to have, of just taking and giving it one day at a time. Because the previous episode that we recorded, one of the things that we were talking about is, just taking it one day at a time. So, just this daily conversion to our faith. And yes, like when someone goes through OCIA and they, it's kind of more of a big like visual thing that, not that, things that kids in high school do, that's not visual as well, but it's just kind of, how do I put it? It's
Are you talking about the sort of the pageantry of?
But yeah, because I did not have my first communion as a kid.
I never had. Yeah.
And I, as a girl, am jealous. I was jealous of the big, sparkly, poofy white dresses and the white leather shoes and the tights, and you get the big veil sometimes. Sometimes your mom gets you a little clip-on one. Sometimes I wanted the big princess. So, and also that's why I veil at mass every day, is because I was jealous. I wanted to be pretty. No, that's not the reason why I veil. I'll have another episode on that. But
This is where we contrast again, because I tore my first communion dress off the second I got home. The second. I did
you see,
not want
this is the difference between, being out in these streets and struggling in the Protestant churches.
That's true.
And the gentle growing up in the Catholic Church, and it's like, oh, these are just the things that are done.
Yeah. I just also really hated
No,
like,
I
feeling
appreciate that.
life.
No, we need to have some controversy.
Yeah.
We need to have some differences on this show, which I appreciate. Because who wants to listen to
People who agree completely on everything.
Yeah. That's not a podcast. That's listening to two disembodied voices just talk about the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think,
Go. You go.
I was going to say that, sort of your experience where, being a Catholic is just, as normal as waking up and breathing and all those things. I think that there is a certain level of kind of, I don't know, whether it's like a cynical or, maybe just they're kind of, there's a misunderstanding, I would say, or not a misunderstanding, but a inability to understand kind of the Catholics, the pageantry a little bit, the art, the relics, the buildings, the vestments, all that kind of stuff, which, because again, like it was it wasn't a big issue, but I know that it was, like, my parents being in an interfaith relation, or like an interfaith marriage. And ironically enough, like the year after I became a Catholic, my dad became a Catholic. And
Way to go.
I got one. And I think that, and my dad comes again from a very Protestant tradition in Western Pennsylvania, which I say isn't quite Appalachia, but pretty darn close. Like, I didn't really have Catholics in Western Pennsylvania. And my uncle is a minister at a Bible church in Pennsylvania. And so they're very, godly family, of course, and devout and all those things. But like, there's a certain level of not even like mystery about why the Catholics do the things that they do. And, whether it's the papacy, whether it's the Vatican, all those types of things, or, why do the Catholics invest so much in art and architecture and stuff? And, I guess, the simple answer is just that, if not for God, then for what, right?
Mm-hmm.
This should be the most important thing. And you show that through wearing the dress on your first communion, having a party with the aunts and uncles for your first communion. Those things should be celebrated, and they should be, they should be celebrated in a visual way, because sometimes our faith, it should be enough, but it fails us. And so you kind of have to have these external influences that help support that.
Yeah. Well, also just anthropologically, we need ceremony in our lives. We need benchmarks to reflect back on. Like, it doesn't have to be every day, because then that would become the norm. But we need moments in our lives to mark passages of time. We need rituals, so that, like, not even like people who are, not even practicing religion, it's like they still try to create what churches provide. Like, I've been reading, I read this book called, what is it called? Sacred Rites or Sacred Rituals. I'll put it in the show notes. But basically, it was recommended years ago when I was going through OCIA, and Bishop Robert Barron recommended it on his podcast, and it was about the nuns, NONES, the term of, people who have no faith practice at all. They, they're not even like denying God. They're just like, I don't have anything.
Right.
So they're nuns. And, as opposed to the other end of the spectrum, NUNS. But, anyway, so the whole point of the book was, and this wasn't even like a Catholic author this was just a researcher who
Sure.
was talking about what they were seeing out there, and they were likening all these different things in our society to the result of not having a culture that is based on, religion. And it's like, you got Soul Cycle, you got these political movements, you got like all these different, commercialized things that people are gravitating to these days because they don't have a close ritualistic relationship with, in our case, God.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I would say that either anthropologically in the course of human existence, of course, these things have existed. But even in the Christian church or the Catholic Church, I mean, the Ignite magazine last time was about like keeping Sunday special, and it's such a modern phenomenon where going to mass with the music is like not the best part of your entire week.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine being a dark age peasant going to a cathedral in France with the music, with the cleanliness, with the incense, and having that being such a transformative experience where you would never want to leave, because what do you go back to? You go back to work. You go back to cold and damp and misery. It's like, well, we go to mass and then, okay, football's on our 99-inch TV at home. Like, how do you top that? How do you top that?
Especially given like cathedrals, they've been built over 100 years, and I think that's also part going back to like art as a part of any culture.
Yeah.
And just like all those different, all those different aspects that are visual reminders of religion. It's like, well, it's all art, and that in itself enhances any experience. And so that's just it's just art in the culture of religion specifically.
Yeah. And also like it when we make art, in the context of God, we are created, thus we are also having a direct communication with the creator, and we are participating in his creation actively in partnership, which I think is really cool, because I also have kind of an art background. So I definitely look through my faith with the different lens of, I create this art and I create this media and I create a lot of this stuff for God and for people who, are searching for God. So it's like I always know that in the end my end product is, for the greater good.
And kind of in my business as a designer for business, very few people I work with have opinions on design. I mean, they don't necessarily, I always say, people don't have the vocabulary to talk about design. So you have to basically just say, do you like A or do you like B? And so I think that kind of this in the context of the Catholic Church and their investment in art and the significance of that, the more cynical person would say, well, what difference does a cathedral make in my relationship with Christ? And you'd say, well, maybe there isn't one, but go to mass at a cathedral and then go to mass or go to church at a small, country quarter Bible church.
Or not even,
which one are you going to have? Which one
or not
resonates?
Even, or not even like a country church. Like think about the same population size. Like you can fit several hundred people into a cathedral, and think about like a mega church that you could fit several hundred people to.
Right.
Maybe equate those two. Like those, I guess, on the, environment, what do you feel? Which draws you closer to God? Which calls out to you? So.
Yeah. Also, just in terms of, I feel like I've heard this phrase like my whole life of like singing is like praising God twice. That's just another form of art. I mean, it's all just going back to, art. Doing any art in any capacity with intention is bringing you closer to, whatever you're doing art for. And so all of that in relation to God is just Yeah, it's all in a similar vein.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's one of those sort of universal human truths, I would say, that the Catholics figured out a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we may have lost in certain ways the justification for it or the impetus of it, but it still exists in our faith. And because the Catholic leaders 1500 years ago figured out this enhances your experience in such a profound way, we're going to keep doing it. So they kind of figured it out. And I think that's one of
Yeah.
the thing that the Protestants kind of get wrong,
Yeah.
is they're always trying to reinvent it. They're
Mm-hmm.
always trying to figure out a new way to have a relationship with Christ, and kind of like the band church that I went to as a
But
kid.
the closer you get to Christ, the closer you get to the Catholic vein of of worship, and the way you're drawn to God. Because in my experience, when I grew up in my evangelical
Mhm.
church, it's just that I felt it was very beige and sanitized, and it's like and it's like we even like the rituals that we would perform in the church, it's like I didn't feel anything. And it's like, yes, I did all the routines, I memorized Bible verses, I did all of the things,
Mhm.
but there wasn't any of that spiritual fruit
Mhm.
coming, because there was nothing behind that ritual.
Mm-hmm.
There was no Eucharist. So that's just me. But going back to your point of, this hunting of truth and beauty and goodness, and how the Catholic Church has, kind of quote figured it out.
Right.
It's called the Transcendentals. It's this whole concept of, because God, is so good, and he feeds into us through the Holy Spirit, that, we are able to experience life, and to be able to create and grow closer to him through this pursuit of what is true, of what is beautiful, and what is good. So there is, an objectionable, reality, um, or it's not as subjective, or am I getting those mixed up?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Oh, you see, it's like I try to sound smart, but I'm just. Is there anything that, you want to, because you kind of talked earlier about, folks who might be coming into this, into, the OCIA
Mhm.
process. Like, is there anything like greater that you want to like say to, just the community here at OLL in general? Maybe about like your conversion, and kind of how that has informed how you participate in the community, or how, I guess, your perception and of the community and things like that.
Well, in the Mound community or the OLL
Well, like,
community, or
Mound in general, or, our community of Catholics here.
well, I think that just I think that being like a fully initiated Catholic allows you to I feel fully participate in the Catholic community that really does. There are different levels of involvement, and there are different levels of um, of impact that that involvement has. And so I think that being able to be more involved, you're able to create more of an impact, and you're able to feel the influence that God has on the community through His church. And I think that's something that maybe is a little underappreciated. I think that whether it's, I mean, I don't really do a lot, I would say. I mostly just usher, but I think that participating, I mean, if you ever have questions about like the order of the Mass, be an usher. You'll figure out the order of the Mass real quick. So, no, I mean, I I don't participate a lot. Surely I could do more. But I do think that um, you know, you can't if you're not a Catholic, and you'll never experience what you could do if you aren't. So,
All right. So thank you, Noel, for coming on the show. It's been really great to just chat and gab and talk about where you've come from, where you've been, and kind of, how this place was part of, how you've, changed and had, your conversion, part of your story here. So again, congratulations.
Hello everyone, I'm Aurora Fenzl, Communications and Technology Systems Manager for Our Lady of the Lake Catholic Church. I'm the podcast host and editor. To support us, you can like, follow, share, and subscribe, and also visit us at ourladyofthelake.com for our mass times and ways to support our mission.